What is the biggest duck I'm dead thing you've done at work, but nobody ever found out? I was supposed to meet a client outside of work to discuss a business opportunity. Got permission to leave work early to go to an arranged meeting with the customer. I went on autopilot as soon as I started driving from work. Forgot about the meeting. Picked up a pizza. Went home. Ate pizza. Couple hours go by. Oh hit. I didn't have a phone number for the customer, so I never called or anything. Just no call no showed on the customer. Customer never said anything. Manager never asked about it. When I was a brand new airline pilot, we landed at an airport that required a long taxi back to the terminal. During the taxi, the captain made a wrong turn onto a narrow taxiway that led to a small private hangar. As soon as he made the turn, we knew it was the wrong taxiway, but it was very narrow with trees on both sides, so there was no way to turn around. I had no idea how we were going to deal with this. He thought for a minute, then said, "McGonagall, can you see the tower from here?" I looked. Nope. Good. Then they can't see us. With that, he reversed both engines and slowly backed onto the main taxiway. I guess the passengers thought it was normal because no one asked any questions and we never heard anything about it. When I was 18, I worked for Menards, like Home Depot. It was a small store with an outside yard that you couldn't drive into, so we would pick what you wanted with a forklift and load the customers out in the parking lot. So this lady came in to pick up a bunch of special order bricks. I loaded 2 pallets of bricks into the back of her very nice new truck. She signed the paperwork and the transaction was done. Until I sat in the forklift filling out my part of the paperwork, and she backed into a forklift tine and punched it all the way through her tailgate. I was 100% in the wrong, as anyone who has ever driven a forklift knows that unless you are actively using the lift, you keep the tines on the ground if you're parked and a couple inches above while driving. I had seen a guy get fired once for driving over a piece of cardboard instead of stopping to pick it up, so I was beyond screwed, but she just put it in drive and took off. She didn't even look back at me. I expected that she was going to pull up to the front of the store to report it, but she just left. As far as I know, she never reported it, and no one ever knew it happened. That was 21 years ago, and I think about that incident pretty often. Spilled coffee all over my laptop. I told my supervisor that it had stopped working, and she assumed it stopped because of how old it was. I got a new, much better laptop out of it. Edit holy hit, y'all. My duckery blew up. While I'm sure any person with mediocre knowledge of computers could easily tell what happened, I worked for a small business with no in-house it, so I truly skirted by on that blunder. They were never called. Dropped a slab of steel on my toes. Couple £100 during my probationary period, but since I was wearing my steel toes, wear your PPE, and no one else was around, I got away with a slightly bruised foot after I wiggled out. Still got let go, but that's because I was a slow welder. Spilled soil samples from an ecology project I was helping our doctorate student on. I contemplated just putting them back into the containers and playing dumb, but that would have been a hitty thing. So instead, I take our work truck, the soil coring device, and in the middle of the night I go to each area again and retake the cores. The bad thing is some sites are on people's front yards, so here I am, coring yards at 2 AM on a Wednesday in front of a house like some really hitty dirt burglar. One old lady heard me and asked what I was doing in her yard, and thankfully instead of shoot me or let my lab director know what the hell I was doing, she simply told me that everyone makes mistakes in science. Take those scientists trying to tell us the earth is getting too warm. Good luck with your dirt study. You know what, silly old lady? I'll let this one slide. Ignore the fact that we are trying to work out how climate change is interacting with urban ecosystems. You didn't rat on me. Yes, I will enjoy my dirt study. I did not get fired. No one knew what I did except that nice old lady. And now the internet. First day as an electrical engineer intern, I blew up a power amplifier by hooking up a power supply incorrectly. I was pulling a lot of current for a small power amplifier, and sparks and smoke were everywhere. I went to tell the engineer I was working for, fully expecting to be reprimanded or fired, but he didn't seem to care too much, which surprised me. It was the night before I was scheduled to have a tense meeting with my boss and a client. The meeting was supposed to be a sort of peace talk because of tension growing between my staff and the client, who was an emotional and difficult person to work with. The night before, my wife and I opened a bottle of wine with dinner and managed to finish it off before bed. This didn't seem like too much at the time, but the next morning I woke up sicker than I have ever been. I still had this difficult meeting, so I got up, got dressed, managed to choke down some Advil and a glass of water. The minute I get on the highway to work, I feel my stomach twisting. There is nothing between where I'm now and where my office is, except highway with almost no shoulder. Halfway to work I feel that feeling in my throat, like a tightening, and my bowels are starting to make terrible noises. I realize I'm going to throw up and look around my car for anything to throw up in. I spot McDonald's bag is on the floor, so I grab it. Hoping I don't need to use it, I speed up trying to get to my exit so I can pull over and Ralph. No dice. I held the bag up to my mouth going 85 miles per hour and throw up red wine into the McDonald's bag, which had the strength of tissue paper, because my hot acid puke punched right through the bag and into my lap. By some miracle I had extra business slacks in my car. I stopped at a gas station and changed in the bathroom. I looked into the mirror and a haggard, sallow man with flops, wet and sunken eyes stared back at me. Even with the wardrobe change I smelled faintly of booze and vomit. I went to the meeting and my boss noticed something was up. He rescheduled with the client, telling me, "I don't think you're up to it this morning." I for sure thought he was going to fire me for being a huge drunk, but nothing happened. I don't drink wine anymore. When I was about 17 I used to internship at a bank through a school program. It was a small business bank, so there wasn't any glass like you see at big banks. The setup was 4 desks lined up next to each other with small walls separating them, almost cubicle style but shorter. My desk was all the way at the end next to the wall. Anyways, so I'm sitting at my desk bored one day with nothing to do, so I grab a paperclip and start flicking it paper football style at the wall separating my desk and the one next to it. Every time it bounced back I would flick it again. Well, one time I flicked it a little too hard and the paperclip flew right over the small wall and hit a customer right in the head that was waiting to be attended. My heart sank, and so did my head down to the desk as I tried to go unnoticed in hopes that they wouldn't know who did it. Looking back, it was probably obvious that the 16Y/0 boy was the one flicking paperclips and not the 40+ old ladies next to him. Luckily I don't think the customer knew what hit her, and I was never blamed for it. Edit. Damn, this blew up. I'ma have to make a new Reddit account now, GG. Had a lorry turn up 15 minutes before the end of the day, and in my rush/pure ducking anger to just get him unloaded as soon as possible so I could go home, I drove through the roller shutter doors as they were still opening and caught them with the top of the mast. I got the guy unloaded and on his way and tried to lock up, hoping to explain it all away the following day. The door was that bent it wouldn't lock. As it wouldn't lock, I couldn't set the alarms. I was essentially trapped at work and now an hour late from leaving. In a moment of pure desperation I lifted the doors again and drove into them from the other side, bending them enough to lock them up, set the alarms and get home. I'd hit them a little too hard, so they were now bent inwards and the bosses assumed someone had reversed into them during the night. The estate we were on was a notorious cruising spot for the local boy racers, and there was always tire marks or bits of car scattered round the place, so they got the blame. Edit. Lorry equals truck/semi/wagon/arctic. Also, thanks for the silver yo. Long time ago. My first job. In advertising in London. I was sent a gif by my old college roommate of a woman sucking off a horse and throwing up a ton of jizz. Pretty gross. I forwarded it to his GF to encourage him not to send me this crap again. But I didn't just send it to her. I sent it to everyone in my office email list. It included clients, some of them pretty high up and very conservative. I panicked like crazy. Luckily, my art director was dating the CEO's PA, and she was really cool. Got the ad guy to delete it from all internal emails, and then sent an email to all the clients telling them there was a virus attached to the email I had sent, and to immediately delete it. No one ever saw that horrendous gif. No one on my agency ever knew, except my AD and his GF. I for sure would have been toast. Ducking. Subscribe to Reddit Throne. Ducking. Subscribe to Reddit Throne.